Okay, imagine this. What if a massive, culture-defining brand could just run itself? Seriously, no CEO, no traditional board of directors, nothing like that. Just a huge community of thousands of people making all the big calls together. Well, that's the wild radical promise behind the Apecoin DAO, and it's one of the boldest experiments in organization we've ever seen. So how's it supposed to work? And more importantly, is it working? Let's dive in. I mean, think about it for a second. This question pretty much goes against 100 years of Business School 101. Could an organization built around something as massive as the Bored Ape Yacht Club actually function, let alone grow and thrive, with no single person in the driver's seat? At its heart, the idea is basically pure digital democracy. Instead of a few people at the top making all the decisions, the power is handed over to everyone who holds the token. Every major move, from funding new projects to changing the very rules of the game, is debated and decided by a collective vote. It's a pretty mind-blowing vision, right? It challenges the whole idea of how a modern organization is supposed to run. And when you put them side by side, the difference is just night and day. On one hand, you've got that classic pyramid structure we all know. And on the other, you have this flat, sprawling network of a DAO. It's a fundamental shift from a hierarchy of people to a system that's actually governed by rules written in code, all running on the blockchain. Okay, so we get the structural difference. But what does that actually look like in the real world? First, let's explore that big, ambitious vision, that ideal of a true digital democracy that the Apecoin DAO is trying to build. So, a decentralized autonomous organization, or DAO for short, is kind of what it says on the tin. It's decentralized because there's no single boss, it's autonomous because it runs itself on code, and it's an organization because it's a bunch of people all working towards the same goals. It's a really powerful blueprint, not just for this one project, but for what a future run by communities could actually look like. But, having a blueprint is one thing. Actually building the house is something else entirely. So how does this digital democracy actually get anything done day to day? Let's pop the hood and take a look at the governance machine that makes it all go. The whole thing runs on a process called the Apecoin Improvement Proposal, or AIP. And the way our producer, Sarushi breaks it down in his research makes it super clear. It all starts as a simple idea on a public forum. If people like it, it gets turned into a formal draft. Then it sits for a full week so everyone can give feedback, and only then does it go to a final vote. This four-step journey is the absolute engine of the DAO. And of course, all this doesn't just happen in one magical place. It's spread out across a bunch of different tools. Think of Discourse as the formal debate hall. Snapshot and Tally are the voting booths. And then you've got Discord and Twitter Spaces. That's like the hallway where all the informal chats happen. Each one has a very specific job to do. So the machine is built, the forms are there, the proposal system works, the voting platforms are ready to go. But this is the exact point where that perfect ideal of a digital democracy smacks right into messy human reality. And it turns out running a huge leaderless group has exposed some pretty serious cracks in the foundation. Let's start with a number. At the time this data was polled, 7,873 people had signed up for the official Apecoin Governance Forum. Now, on the surface, that sounds pretty healthy, doesn't it? Almost 8,000 members? Well, this is where things get awkward. Take a look at the actual activity. Out of those nearly 8,000 members, only a couple hundred are active enough to be called members. And the number of people who are truly regular active contributors, it's less than 50. 50 people. It's a classic problem. You have a giant audience, but a tiny, tiny group is doing all the heavy lifting. And this isn't just me pointing at a chart. The people inside the community feel this frustration every day. One member, going by the name Smart Ape, put it perfectly, and it really captures this growing feeling of concern. This lack of engagement starts to cause even bigger, scarier problems. First, there's the money. The DAO's main funding has an expiration date. What happens then? Then there's accountability. Members are getting frustrated with delays on simple transparency reports. And finally, the big one, the classic problem for every DAO, whales. That's where a few people with a ton of tokens can basically outvote everyone else combined. So you've got low engagement, a financial clock ticking down, and serious questions about fairness. The community was stuck. And in response to all this pressure, a really radical new idea hit the table. a pivot that could completely change what the Apecoin DAO even is. Seeing how slow and scattered things had become, leadership from Yuga Labs, the company that created the Bored Apes in the first place, stepped forward with a proposal to completely overhaul the entire structure. And this brings us to the core conflict, the huge choice the community had to make. Do they stick with the original, purely decentralized DAO, even with all its problems? Or do they pivot to something called Apeco, a much more centralized, founder-led company built for speed and focus? It's the ultimate showdown, pure democratic ideals versus corporate efficiency. All right, let's zoom out for a second, because this whole debate inside the Apecoin community isn't really just about Apecoin. It's a massive case study that's forcing us to ask some really tough questions about the future of all these decentralized organizations. I mean, just look at this. It might look like a crazy spider web, but it's actually a map of all the academic research being done on DAOs. Each dot is a paper, each line a connection. And it proves one thing for sure. The problems Apecoin is facing, governance, engagement, fairness, they are not unique. These are the exact same questions researchers all over the world are desperately trying to answer. And the deep, incredible research that our producer Sarush Ziai put together for this explainer makes one thing crystal clear. Apecoin DAO is so much more than just another crypto project. It's a live, public experiment, and its successes and its failures are going to teach us all huge lessons about how we work together online. And so all of this leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Is the final goal to reach some perfect state of total decentralization? Or maybe is decentralization just a tool, a phase, just one part of a much longer journey to find the right balance for building things together in this new digital world? If you enjoyed digging into this with us, hitting that like button really does help support our work. And make sure you're subscribed with the bell on so you don't miss the next time we break down a complex topic like this one. We'd really love to know, what do you think is the future for DAOs? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. Thanks for watching.